everybody, this is Matthew Movies coming at you with my review of FUBAR, the 2002 Canadian mockumentary that I don't know that a lot of people outside of my country have seen, or a lot of people even within my country have seen, but it's a movie that I will always find unforgettable and just a fascinating and unique movie that a lot of people should check out, especially if they enjoy the mockumentary style or have a fondness for the culture that this movie kind of brings to light. And it's funny because this movie, like I said, it's a mockumentary, and there are large parts of it that I find to be very believable and feel like they could have actually existed. And I know somebody who watched it, which I'm going to be talking about more later, but who watched it, did not know it was a mockumentary, thought it was a documentary, and absolutely bought into it. And I'll be telling that story later because it's one of the major reasons why I'll never forget this film either. But basically, for those of you who haven't seen it, essentially it's a like I said, it's a mockumentary about like the hair metal band fans that are getting drunk all day and kind of live a skid row kind of lifestyle and are very over the top and angry and but at the same time have a lot of camaraderie between them. And there's two main dudes that are at the core of it, and they just absolutely commit to this role throughout the entire movie. You see them getting wasted and you see them in their everyday lives, and they have fascinating stories. It's funny because they show that these two guys have responsibilities. One of them has a kid, but yet they live this kind of very free-loading lifestyle. They have a house that has nothing really of value in it because they spend all of their money that they make on booze and having a great time, and there's the camaraderie that they create between the two of them is fantastic. They share almost every sequence with one another, and they're just the feel that you get from them is hilarious. It feels like they're basically an arrested youth, that feeling that a lot of us know from when we were in our teens, just going out and getting drunk with our buddies or our friends or what have you, and getting kind of over the top and stupid, and every time they get together, yelling and causing a ruckus. And there's moments where they're going around and causing destruction. There's a moment that I'll never forget where one of them throws a trash can through a window pane, and they're going around kicking stuff and jumping up and all that kind of stuff. They're just basically their drunken antics throughout the entirety of the film. And then as the film progresses, one of them gets diagnosed with cancer, so they decide to go on this kind of like Lost Weekend kind of thing where they're off in the woods and they're having a fire. They're jumping over the fire and breaking tree branches and small trees they're just completely destroying, and they're jumping in this lake and all this kind of stuff, and they're shotgunning beers, and it's just a very fun movie throughout most of it, and entertaining and silly and ridiculous, and then just has at its core it's just a very mischievous film. I think it's probably the perfect word to describe it. It's very unique, and if you are a film fan, I think it's a must-see film for you, because you're not going to find anything else out there like it. It did have a sequel come out because this movie had no budget, so it was very easy for it to make a profit. So there was, and does have a cult following for sure. So there was a sequel, which personally I never liked nearly as much as this one, but it's interesting. You can check it out as well. And like I said, there's a friend of mine who I watched it with who had no idea that this movie it was a mockumentary. And the reason why I'm telling this story is because it absolutely makes me laugh to this day. So as this film progresses, there is a sequence where throughout the movie you are introduced to the documentary filmmaker. There are moments where he's talking to the two guys, and they pick on him a lot, and they kind of push him and prod him because he's very serious and he's making this movie, and they want him to get drunk with them. And as the film progresses, there's this moment, like I said, where they're going to be jumping into this river, and it's hilarious too because you see them and they're kind of playing it off like they're those rock jumpers in like Hawaii and all those places where they're jumping from like 30 feet up into the river or whatever, but it looks like it's about 3 feet that they're jumping into this little lake. But the filmmaker is, he's like, oh no, I don't want to go. And so the two guys are basically like, well, look, if you don't do it, we're not going to sign our releases, so your little film's going to be worthless. So they force him to kind of jump into it, and he jumps into this lake, and then a moment later you just see him and he's face down in the water going, and then they show his funeral. So as I was watching this movie with a good friend of mine at the time, there's a moment early on in the movie where, right at the very start, actually, before any of the movie starts playing, there's this screen that comes up where they're revealing that none of this is true, and that they're thanking the people who they during the production they fooled into thinking that it was a documentary and all that kind of stuff. So I knew that was in the movie. So my buddy who I was watching with, he had to excuse himself for a moment. So when I put the DVD in, I fast forwarded past it so he would think it was a documentary. And as we're watching this scene, he turns to me, he's like, did I just watch somebody die? What? That's messed up, dude. And I didn't tell him that it was a mockumentary. So as the film, as the week progressed, he kept talking to me about it. He's like, man, I can't believe that happened in that movie. That's ridiculous. And you know, I was kind of laughing to myself, and I never told him. And like, you know, current me, 35-year-old me, I wouldn't have played this prank on him, but at the time, I thought it was hysterical. And there was one night where we went out to this bar, and we were in like kind of like a side room so we could actually hear one another, and we were sitting there drinking and talking, and he brings it up again, and there was somebody else at the table who had no idea that I'd been keeping this going, and they're like, what? You know that wasn't real, right? And my buddy's like, what? And he looks at me with this like, and I started laughing. He's like, you son of a bitch. Oh man, it's such a good memory, such a funny time, and one of the major reasons why I enjoy this movie as well, which, you know, obviously if you're watching this and you haven't checked it, you're not going to have the same experience unless you decide to set up a similar joke, which worked out pretty well for me, but he wasn't the biggest fan of the joke, so but even without that joke, I think this movie is a lot of fun. It's a good time at the movies. It's very ridiculous and over the top and entertaining and worthwhile watching. So those are my thoughts on FUBAR. Let me know in the comment section below what you think, if you've seen the movie, if you think that story was funny, if you would have done the same thing, if you think I'm a jerk that I did that to him at the time, whatever. Other than that, please hit that like button, hit that share button. It makes it much more likely that other people will come check out this review and let me know what they think, which would be awesome, because I love talking to people about movies. And speaking of which, if you're new here or you just haven't done it yet, please hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you can find out when I put out a new video. Come and check it out and join that conversation. Other than that, have yourself a good day.